Okay. I am here with Valerie Curtis. She is the Regional In-Service Director at the Jack State In-Service Center at McClellan. Good morning, Valerie.
Good morning.
Okay, so I have several questions to ask you. This is for my class at Jacksonville State. And so we're going to get started. And the first question is, what is your personal and professional background?
Sure. Okay. So I went to UAB where I got my bachelor's in early childhood and elementary education. I continued on at UAB after I got my first job. Um, and I did my master's in elementary education. At that time, I was working. I was working in an elementary school in our region. I taught first and second grade. And then I decided I thought I might want to be a reading specialist. So I went back and got my reading specialist certification, which is basically like a master's degree, but just a little bit less than that. I really didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I just loved it all. I loved being in the classroom. I loved teaching. And at that time, I was also the building technology coordinator. So I handled all the technology equipment and I also led professional learning for my colleagues there in that building in the area of technology integration. After that, I um, I interviewed for a Title One position because my passion was really with literacy and struggling readers. And so I got that position as Title One interventionist, and I did that for 3 years, where I was teaching students K through 4 in reading and math. And I was either pulling them to my classroom or I was pushing into their classrooms and doing small groups or one-on-one instruction within that classroom or within multiple classrooms really. We had probably 20 staff. After that, my system really encouraged me to go full time with building technology coordination at the high school level. So I left my elementary school and went to the high school. I pursued my instructional leadership master's degree and then my EDS in instructional technology while I was there. Um, I did that for probably 5 or 6 years, doing full-time building technology coordination for the high school. We had about 1,200 students, about 100 faculty and staff, and I led them into their one-to-one initiative, as well as, provided a lot of professional learning in the areas of technology integration there again. I co-taught with several of them. Um, and I just handled day-to-day issues with student Chromebooks, teacher printers, projectors, computers, you name it. I got a lot of experience there. While I was there at the high school, I was asked to do an interim assistant principal position at our intermediate school. So I was full time assistant principal at the same time I was full time building technology coordinator, and that's when COVID hit. And continued to do that for a full year. But then after COVID, I went back just to my building technology position. So I did that for one more year before I became an assistant principal there at the high school. After that, I came to Jacksonville State University to become Alabama Technology in Motion. Did that for a couple years, and now I am where I am now, which
Mhm.
is the Regional In-Service Center Director for Region 6, which is our Jack State. So, this role really allows me to bridge K-12 education, higher education, workforce development, and professional learning for teachers and leaders across an entire region. So, I really love it here. I don't have any plans to leave this one.
All right, thank you. You've done a lot. What cultural identities or lived experiences do you think have shaped your leadership?
Um, I grew up in a family where education was an expectation and hard work was absolutely a given. We didn't have a whole lot, but my parents modeled responsibility and resilience and the importance of doing things with excellence in every single thing. Um, I had a major turning point in my life when I was in 11th grade. My sister passed away in a car accident while I was there at the high school. And during that time, I cared for her baby while my mom worked night shifts at UAB. And that experience taught me a lot about responsibility and compassion and perspective at a very young age. I definitely think it gave me a different lens in which to see the world and other people and their situations. It certainly shaped how I lead today. I feel like from that, I lead with empathy and understanding and a deep belief that everybody has a story and everybody has an experience that shapes their character and their decisions that they make day to day. So, those experiences really built in me a sense of determination and service that I will always carry with me.
Okay, I'm going off script a little bit, but it does make me think of a question. So, did that experience in taking care of your sister kinda lead you to wanna go into education or to help other kids, or did you just always wanna be a teacher?
Actually, that's really a great question. While that situation helped me build perspective, it wasn't that made me wanna go into education. My little sister, is intellectually disabled. My little sister, I call her my little sister. She's actually my younger sister by only 3 years, but she is who ultimately made me wanna go into education because I saw how she struggled, and I knew in my heart I believed she could learn and learn at high levels. And so I would teach her at home when we were little. So really, ultimately, it was that sister that made me want to go into education. And it's the other sister that gave me perspective and influenced my leadership now, if that makes
Okay. So how I guess that kinda rolls into the next question. How did you discover your purpose or calling in leadership?
Um, I've always believed that you can lead where your feet are, regardless of your title. And throughout my career, I've had leaders who saw potential in me that I didn't see in myself. I haven't always had confidence, and they invested in my growth. And so their example taught me of what true leadership is about, and that's about growing other people. That's what leadership is growing other people, not necessarily growing yourself. And that realization became my purpose. I wanted to create environments where other people felt empowered to step into their own leadership, no matter their position. And sometimes I found that the bigger your title, the more restrictions on leadership you actually
Mm.
have. It's when I was a teacher and when I was growing in my teams that I felt the most empowered. So, um, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. Like, not growing yourself, but growing other people, that's really good. What values guide your interactions and decisions?
Um, I think growing up, my parents instilled in me integrity and service. Hard work was a non-negotiable. But through my life, I've also come to realize that collaboration with others is just as important.
Mhm.
I make decisions through the lens of what best serves educators and students, and I value transparency. I believe people deserve to understand why and what behind whatever's happening. I also believe that every interaction, every conversation, and every act of service should be done to the best of my ability with excellence. Like I said earlier, you never know the ripple that your actions or your words have on somebody. And so I don't want to be the one, I don't want ever want to be a stumbling block for somebody in something that I viewed as simple. When really it was really big for them. So I view every single interaction and situation as I've got to do this with excellence. And so that's just a core value that I have. When I was building technology coordinator, I started at because I was coming from elementary school and going into secondary, I knew I had a lot to prove to those secondary educators. I got a lot of side eyes to begin with. This elementary out
Can't
here. You
imagine.
get a bulletin board for us. Like I wanted to be more than that. So I did a lot of listening. I was quiet. I listened more than I spoke. And I always left them better off than when I came to them. And so if it were rewiring a computer and cinching their cables down with some Velcro strips, like I did it as if I were doing it for, someone famous. Like I did it as if someone was going to come in and decide how much my pay would be based on those
Right.
points. Like I did it the best I could, and I made sure if you know if it were me and someone were coming into my classroom, how would I want them to treat me? How would I want them to help me? And then I tried to go above that. So that's the way I view my interactions.
I like that. Um, how do you communicate across differences in our organization?
So there's a lot of differences here in service. Our in-service department has a lot of different parts and pieces, components. We work for both the state and the university, and so we're all united in one mission, and that is to serve the teachers and the students in our region. But we go about that so very differently. So I often try to listen first. I am a critical listener, a deep listener, and I try to lead with a curiosity instead of oh, I've got the answers. Um, I think one of those core values that I talk about is um, under seeking first to understand instead of me being understood. That's goal number one. And we have a diverse region, and so I've learned to try to adapt my communication styles, honor the different perspectives of each section here. We call them all the letters: ARI, OMI, ATM, ASIM, AMSTI. We have so many groups here, so I always try to look at our shared goals rather than the divisions and start there. How can we know that we have certain goals and outcomes that we all share. How do we communicate? How do we get on the same page with those? And we keep those, as long as we're keeping those in mind, it's easy to communicate. It's also easy to keep everybody in the loop. Um, I think we probably overshare, and that's okay because I don't ever want anybody to feel like they're left out or not in the know about something.
Okay. What are the biggest challenges you face as a leader?
Um, One of the biggest challenges is navigating change in systems where tradition runs deep. I've learned that that's true for here as it is for everywhere in the school system I was in, here as well. I've learned that sustainable change requires trust and communication, like we just talked about, and probably overall patience because progress, I heard this one time and I thought this was so good. Progress truly happens at the speed of relationships. And so, um, it's important to me to build good, solid relationships with everybody in this building, everybody, all of our partners across the state level and the regional level. um, but another challenge that has been true for me is having hard conversations. As a leader, that's inevitable, and you can't brush those under the rug. You have to meet them head on. And leadership to me also means weathering storms with grace and consistency. Um, I've found that you don't always have to explain yourself, but you do have to be transparent, and people respect that. People respect honesty and steadiness. And even when the message is difficult or you're in the middle of a storm, you're going to come out on the other side. So hold true to those values. And it's a season. You're going to go into it, you're going to come out of it. We're always in a season, nothing lasts forever. So Um, that's been difficult. I wanna see good positive changes immediately, and that's probably an area of my life where I've grown the most, is I've figured out how to slowly navigate that with patience and not get discouraged.
I think I'm a lot that way. Like, I want things to happen right now and see the result right now. So that
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
How do you foster collaboration and a sense of shared purpose in your team?
We have a lot of structures that I feel like I've helped to strengthen, our team has helped to strengthen so that we can have shared leadership. Um, One of those examples is our regional collaborative. Um, we all share the leadership in moving our region, but one of the first steps was to have a strong regional collaborative meeting and having a collective purpose and outcome in those meetings. Um, I think it's so important that we have structures and systems that value everyone's voice, that values everybody's perspective. Because I believe that when they see that their input is valued and is reflected in the conversations, then ownership is naturally going to follow that. So, collaboration ultimately becomes the culture and not whatever professional learning or whatever task we're trying to do or whatever project. It ultimately becomes our relationships working together to communicate and share the work. So the systems and the structures are how we foster collaboration here, whether that's through a shared newsletter to everybody, where everybody gets to put their input in the newsletter, share the great work that they're doing, whether it's the intentional meetings that we have, the conversations, the voices that we pull into planning meetings. We all know that we are all valued. And so as I feel like as long as people feel like their work matters and that their voice is valued, then we're going to have collaboration and we're going to have a sense of shared purpose.
What impact do you hope your leadership will have?
That's a real loaded question. Um, you know, I want to leave a legacy of connectedness. Um, I always strive to see the big picture in everything, a bigger picture, maybe than even what we're getting in our own positions between higher education, which is our college, K through 12 public education, the workforce, um, what is it called? Like your quality of life in your community. Like all of these things are connected on a much broader scale. And I always try to keep those things in the forefront of anything that we do. My hope is that our educators, our team, even though I don't necessarily directly supervise all of our team, I hope that they feel empowered, that our schools in our region feel supported. They know what in service is. They understand the inner workings of each of our groups of people, each of our sections, and that ultimately they feel equipped to continue the good work that they're already doing.
Yeah, I like that. It's weird when you're not in a classroom anymore and you think, "I'm not having an impact on kids," but then I have to go, "No, we reach 5,000 teachers, that's how we're impacting kids," like,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah,
different.
it's not a direct connection anymore, always. Sometimes it is, but sometimes you're a little more removed. You're impacting people who are impacting people.
Right, yeah. Which leadership style best describes your approach and why did you pick that?
Um, I think I'm a little bit of a blend between servant leadership and transformational leadership. Because I think I lead with empathy and I feel an incredible sense of purpose. But I also have a very clear vision and priority on innovation. Um, I feel like my leadership style is lifting others, but also, like we talked about, building systems that last beyond me.
Mhm.
You know, one day I'll retire. I don't know, hopefully, um, this work will continue on seamlessly.
Mhm.
Um, I also deeply believe that none of us is as smart as all of us. And I first developed that idea or that concept when I went to an ed camp as a young teacher. Because ed camps, I don't know if you remember those, but the whole purpose of it is to go where your feet like be where your feet are, go where the conversation that's most relevant to you is happening. Um, it isn't focused on any one presenter, no huge keynote. It is a collaborative conference. And I've seen different versions of that type of a conference throughout my career, but I love the whole idea behind that. It's a collective knowledge that is so much stronger than just the one person.
Mhm.
Um, and the perspective of a team far outweighs what any one person can offer. So I think that way about our team. And I look at challenges through multiple lenses before making decisions. I share the big picture before diving into the details so that everyone understands how their work connects to the larger vision. We recently had a project based learning training, and one of the activities, one of the protocols was you had to go to an area of the room where you felt most connected. So those examples were I'm a big thinker, big picture thinker. I'm a more detailed, granular thinker. I'm more of a creative thinker. There were some other options in the room, and I darted to I'm a larger vision person. So um, I think
I
that's
knew you were gonna bring that in. I knew.
good.
Said big
Well,
picture, I was like, "Oh, yeah, that was her at project-based learning."
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and I certainly value the details. I value getting in the weeds and figuring things out about, I mean, we have to have that. We have to have that. But I think everybody really at the end of the day wants to know that their work connects to a greater purpose and
Mhm.
a greater vision that's going to last beyond that one day of PD, or last beyond that little project that we're all working on. So,
Yeah.
definitely a blend.
Okay. Well, alright, that is it. Thank you for taking the time to do the interview.
You're welcome. See you later.